More meat for the lizard thing larder, my little vermin. Clan Moulder is here, and it's on like Donkey Kong. Harambe was a several-ton mutant pox rat from Satan's own playground, that is. The master mutators of HELLPIT are gathered in the Mortis Waste to teach Lizardmen a thing or two about monsters. But through the desert sands march the armies of Gor-Rok, the Great White Lizard. And with the changes coming to Footlords in the Twisted and the Twilight, he should be a significantly larger problem to deal with. So, in a battle of Frankenstein freaks and clever girls, we'll see which teeth gnash hardest and which claws bite deepest. Here we go. So for our grand reveal of Clan Moulder, I decided to put a heavy emphasis on monsters and the new RORs, which is a substantially different playstyle than you'll typically see against the Lizardmen. THROT himself has many ways to benefit his minions, of course. Stride his terrifying brood horror, he has regen, 95 speed, a healthy dose of AP, and poison. He can summon the Beast Pack, putting a full unit of rat ogres on the field, which can be completely game-changing if a dragon or carnosaur tries to goon him out, and he activates his trap card. More than that, he can remolder his monsters, hitting them with a huge burst of healing, leadership, and melee attack, and he has a constant morale and defense aura from Master Controller, immune to Psych as well, so very well-rounded, but expensive lord with relatively low morale. At his side is a new HELLPIT ROR called the Thing, with a better stat line, poison, and a fluid injection buff that turns it into a temporary Titan killer, but also gives it the potential to rampage, so you need to time that wisely or it can get your A-bomb killed. On my left flank are the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, a new wave of Norscan berserkers who undertook the same horrific transplant Gorge went through. Barbarian brains in rat ogre bodies, and they can rampage because of it. And if you're going for a Moulder theme list, having that extra Packmaster support is quite helpful. So my Packmaster is on a Brood Horror with his Shock Collar, a single target buff to prevent terror routes with melee attack and morale on top of it. The Scrying Stone gives him a ward save on a 60-second cooldown, and running with the pack grants regen to monsters in an AoE, so I'm pretty sure you guys can see the synergy here. There's no caster this battle whatsoever. I wanted to focus my micro on THROT and his Packmaster buddy, injecting all my monsters with combat steroids like Jose Canseco. So, besides that, nothing too shocking. Couple Giselles, a bunch of chaff, infantry, and the Council Guard Storm Vermin. My opponent is Janet on occasion, and he has a legion of skinks led by BJ from Barney and Friends. Gor-Rok. Remember, he will now spend much less time on his ass, which is great. When he's fighting something like an Abomination or Brood Horror, a lot of that AP will be going the way of the target he's trying to swing at. So, he has the Shield of Eons for dealing with cycle charging, Mace of Ulamak for that ridiculous combat steroid, and that's why we call him Dwayne Gor-Rok Johnson. Super nice guy, great actor, but roided to the gills. Behind him is a Skink Priest of Heavens on an Ancient Stegodon, that blowpipe being brutal against Skaven, Harmonic Convergence, and Curse of the Midnight Wind. Paco Pot cohort, bunch of Raptor Cav in the rear. Skink Javelins to deal with a lot of the low armor Clan Moulder monsters. They can severely mess them up. And some Pterodon Riders overhead, who can do the exact same thing. No caster means no Howling Warp Gale, which means dealing with the Pterosaurs is harder. And I was very curious to see how Brood Horrors would actually perform. From what I gathered so far, they seem to have a very high max target count on their melee attack, meaning they can hit a bunch of units every time those jagged teeth bite down, and they spew forth some corrosive bile. They're extremely mobile at 95 speed, but of course, they have lower leadership because they are Skaven after all, tend to scurry scamper out of danger when things start looking dicey, and THROT is already killing off a bunch of Skink cohort in the early game. Traditionally, you'll see Clan Scryer make up the core against Lizardmen, because they're naturally brutal against dinos with rattling guns and Giselles and all that stuff. And it's a matchup Lizards have struggled with, but like I said, this is a wildly different approach that kind of enters dinosaur territory in terms of an all-out brawl. So maybe plays a little bit into their jaws, but that's why we're trying it out, to see if Clan Moulder can go toe-to-toe against the children of the old ones. These Pterodon Riders are going to be a huge factor in this battle, and they are super annoying. There's no way 2 Warplock Giselles can deal with 3 Pterodon Riders by themselves. They would need support from Howling Warp Gale or something like that, some kind of other counter-skirmish play, but they can still deal some damage there, and they have support from infantry on the ground, so if they decide to jump in, we can jump on top of the Pterodon Riders and deal with them. At the moment, Lizardmen are getting super strong in the center with all their cavalry, with that Skink Priest on the Ancient Stegodon, and with the Paco Poc cohort. So, this is where the monsters of Clan Moulder can really shine, going right in, committing everything to getting rid of those clever girls and summoning some mutant rat ogres on top of them. That's an important point right there. THROT is 95 speed on that Brood Horror. In previous patches, the Skaven would not have been fast enough to take advantage of an engagement like this one. Cold Ones would have had plenty of time to escape, but not with a build like this. The Unclean pounces, summons the Beast Pack Rat Ogres to pin them in place, then everything else converges and rips them a new butthole. So that Cav is off the field almost immediately. You saw them just get straight up deleted from the game in about 15 seconds flat. Fantastic. Opens up some new tactics for the Skaven, that is for sure. Council Guard Stormvermin said, screw it, I can't protect those Jezzails anymore. HELLPIT Abomination got wrecked by those Skin Cohort with Javelins in the back. 3 or 4 full units of those firing at a target that large with only 30 armor means sad face for the monster of Clan Moulder. He wants to go somewhere else and not trigger that too horrible to die this early in the battle. If things got really bad for the thing could drop a Remoldered from THROT on the HELLPIT Abomination to give it 1400 burst HP. But generally speaking, you want to save the too horrible to die procs and regen, because it's very likely to hit that healing cap anyway. Save Remoldered for the Brood Horrors or for the Rat Ogres, which are going to be an important unit in this battle because they provide more mass to tie down that Ancient Stegodon and some more of that cavalry. Pterodon Riders did a great job at the start of the game dealing with the Warplock Jezzails. Got them off the field pretty quick, actually. And now they can drop rocks from on high on the Council Guard Stormvermin, who are unbreakable. The only way to get them off the field is to kill every last one of them, and stone drops are certainly a good way to do so. Curse of the Midnight Wind has also helped Janet on occasion, on multiple occasions here. Kind of a big brawl forming in the center, and that's exactly when you want to use a spell like that from the Lore of Heavens. But the thing is still alive and is still a monster hunter and a cav killer through and through. Brood Horrors are probably better against elite infantry, but quickly getting a bunch of skinks off the field is certainly not something they have any issues with whatsoever. Terror routes imminent for the skink cohort on the Lizardmen right flank, and while they're winning in the center, they're not doing so well over on this side of the battlefield, and that is one of the nice things about having THROT and that Packmaster both mounted on Brood Horrors. You have a ton of speed and maneuverability to quickly shift away from engagement that may not be going so well for you and go somewhere else. Still though, that is leaving the Council Guard Stormvermin on an island. That means Gor-Rok and the Ancient Stego should feast. They've completely swarmed and surrounded them. Blowpipes cutting their lives into pieces. This is their last resort. And there will be no mercy shown for the unbreakable Stormvermin, because the Great White smells blood in the water, and he does not suffer the Ratmen to live. Not sure what we're going to do about this Protoceratops, to be honest. What you always do with Footlords, I guess, just ignore him, avoid him, and hope he doesn't have enough support come endgame, but he's generating great value right now, killing off expensive Stormvermin halberds. Remoldered, knitting flesh and mending bone for the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep. That is a 1400 HP heal going their way, equivalent of a regrowth, so very powerful, which will make a traditionally squishy monstrous infantry unit that much more survivable. And this quick kind of interlude we got going right now is the exact type of timeout Clan Moulder likes to have too, because every important unit left on the field is regenerating health, gearing up to go back in for round 2, and the Brood Horrors are doing so now. Game plan is get rid of that Ancient Stegodon. Once they have lost their terror, they're in big trouble. Little micro mistake there. Cavalry gets caught out. They're going to lose about 1,000 HP to the Pit Fighters and to the Brood Horror with THROT the Unclean at the helm. Lost about 6, 7, maybe 8 models. Yeah, about 1,000 HP. So a little bit rough there, but it happens. A lot of stuff going on at the moment. Pterodon Riders got a nice rear charge. A lot of fear going the way of the Skaven infantry. They won't be able to sustain in melee against an Ancient Stego. More Clan Rats, more Slave Rats being run down by the Cold One Spear Riders. And the Paco Pot cohort are long gone. Skink Priest up to 50-56 with the Harmonic Convergence popped. That's a scary stat line for a monster that's that powerful. And the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep swarmed by a bunch of Skink cohort, but with that stat line, their high melee attack, and the fact that they can get remoldered, another regrowth going their way, they should be able to handle that no problem at all. So, this is the ultimate test for Brood Horrors as they do a little Michael Jackson dance. Thriller popping off right now, another Curse of the Midnight Wind going down. Can they deal with big, armored, single entity monsters? They certainly have the armor-piercing value to make it work. Trying to buff up those Rat Ogres at the moment, trying to keep them in the fight. HELLPIT is low, but the Curse of the Midnight Wind is hitting everything. But those Brood Horrors, with their 95 speed, with their regen, their good AP, can cycle charging with them help them goon out large armored monsters like ancient stegodons. So far, they've done a pretty damn good job. A lot of heals have gone their way. Nice rear charge from Janet, finishing off those pit fighters finally. That unit is completely gone. Great engagement, but the HELLPIT Abomination, the thing coming in, slamming in from behind. Gonna get some kills there too. Maybe a big moment happening on this side. Pterodon Riders might have enough mass to tie down a Brood Horror and prevent it from escaping, so Gor-Rok and the Ancient Stego can beat up on him. But over here, looking like the HELLPIT Abomination and a full HP THROT the UNCLEAN. Cleared up that side completely. There is one cav unit left at about 1/3 health, but the rest of the Skaven troops are collapsing in on that King Priest and on Gor-Rok, and they're trying to chase that Packmaster off the map. Pterodon Riders might be able to do so. If that Packmaster cannot rally, well, that's a huge loss for Clan Moulder. But again, that's the great thing about having 95 speed and a vomitous freak of nature that can hunt them down. He can actually keep up with the Pterodon Riders and make sure they can't chase that Packmaster off of the field. Ancient Stego certainly can't do it. Another vomit attack coming in. It's a really cool one. I haven't seen a ton of unique killing animations for Brood Horrors yet, but that vomit animation is pretty nasty. Seems to do a lot of damage too. Packmaster is back in the fight now, and huge right here. Too horrible to die just procced for the thing for the HELLPIT Abomination Regiment of Renown. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly demoralizing to get it to a point where you're about to kill it off and you're saying, oh baby, I got this. And then the A-bomb comes in with 2,000 extra health out of nowhere. But at the same time, you know there's a good chance it's going to get that proc when you fight against it. It's built into the cost of the unit. If it didn't have that healing proc, it probably would not be considered very good in the first place. And now it can pop that fluid injection. Now this thing is like 350, 400 more gold than a regular HELLPIT Abomination, so that fluid injection better make it work. Armor piercing, melee attack, base weapon damage. That's a huge steroid injection going its way. More than enough to strike the killing blow on these King Chief, on this King Priest rather. And that's a big dino off the field. And with it, Gor-Rok's chances of winning this battle are pretty much gone. That is 3 regenerating monsters that are all still alive, all able to support each other and hunt down this infantry with impunity. Maybe even get some cycle charges in on Gor-Rok himself. Now, there are very few legendary lords. Oh my god, that was disgusting. All that carnage being unleashed by the thing and by THROT the UNCLEAN right now. I was gonna say, there are very few legendary lords in the game, at least foot lords, that are able to survive cycle charging better than Gor-Rok, because he can get up to 160 armor and expert charge defense with the Shield of Eons. But, I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say that Brood Horrors have a really high max value on how many units they can hit at a single given point in time. I mean, they're literally insta-jibbing like 12, 13, 14 skink cohort on attack here. Now, they have very low HP per entity, skink cohort do, and they were already damaged severely, so it's not that surprising, but the Brood Horrors have been fantastic this game. Done a great job hunting down high-value single entities and the infantry as well, terrorizing them off the field. And now, you can cycle charge Gor-Rok to death. I mean, the synergy between those 4 Moulder units this game was exquisite. Like, a thing of beauty, you could say. You basically have 100% uptime on the Rat Ogres or Brood Horrors getting buffed. Constant heals, constant regen, constant jabs from the Shot Caller to improve their leadership and melee attack. Fluid injection on the A-bomb when Rampage is safe and it's not going to get you killed anyway. It means you want to use that when you're not getting shot by 4 units of Skink Javelins. I almost lost my A-bomb right at the start of the game, and now they are enjoying the fruits of their labor. Yeah, after losing the Paco Pac cohort early and the cavalry getting routed off, it was going to be tough to deal with THROT the UNCLEAN. Thing to remember is, THROT is actually pretty squishy, and he only has like 69 leadership on that Brood Horror. Very nice. But if you can bottle him up, like get a full surround off on him, the Brood Horror doesn't have a lot of staying power. But if Rufus from Kim Possible is constantly on the move, getting attacks in and moving off to snack on something else, it's in its element, and it can be a game changer for sure. And check this out. New stat, damage value and damage dealt on every single unit card in the post-battle stat screen gives us a much better indication of how well a unit performed in battle. In my experience, up to this point, if a Lord did quite well in game, it'll be around the 2,000 damage value mark. That's kind of the average I've seen for a Lord that performed exceptionally well in game. You can get higher than that. If a unit gets around 1,500 or so, it also did quite well. Anything above that, it's doing super well in combat, whether it be from range or in melee. And you can see all the Clan Moulder monsters, both the Brood Horrors, the Packmaster, the Rat Ogres, and the HELLPIT Abomination all got over 100 kills and over that 1,000 damage value mark. So they were fantastic for me that game, and they should have carried my ass to victory. They did really well. I did not protect my Giselles as well as I should have. Having Howling Warp Gale there would have helped deal with the Pterodon Riders much easier. I didn't have the support for them I needed, but I didn't want to drop any of the Clan Moulder monsters, and I think you can see why. When you have a build tailored to support them well, they can perform wonders, and they all did there. I was actually super impressed with the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep. Those, with the regrowth going their way, and with the stat line that is already much more impressive than a traditional Rat Ogre, they were a force of nature that game. They were amazing for killing cavalry, getting that off the field, and once a Paco Pot cohort were gone, once most of the Colon Riders were gone, I think the Lizardmen lost a lot of the momentum they might have otherwise carried into the late game to deal with those Brood Horrors. As I've said, you catch one of these naked mole rats out of position, they're gonna drop super fast. That's the thing, you gotta catch them in the first place. They've got 95 speed, gotta be difficult to do so. So overall, I've been pretty impressed with the Moulder stuff I've seen so far. It is good on the battlefield. I think we just saw that in action, and it's versatile, and I think that's what you want. When you're playing against the Skaven, you don't know how they're going to play now. The fact that they have all 4 of their great clans in the game means they are tough to game plan for, and with Clan Moulder now in Warhammer 2, things aren't going to get any easier fighting against these rat men. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle. Plenty more content on the way soon, and we'll be showing off the Wood Elf side as well.